Welcome back to First Take. Yes, the NBA trade deadline 6 days away. All eyes obviously on Giannis Adebayo after we learned earlier this week that he is officially ready for a new home. And the Bucks are listening to all serious trade offers. Giannis is currently sidelined with that calf strain, and the Bucks are just in a free fall. They've lost 7 out of their last 8 games. Monica and Wendy are back with us. Feels like Giannis will be on the move. Will it be before the trade deadline? We can discuss, but who do you think is the best star to pair Giannis Adebayo with?
Okay, so I'm not going to lie, you guys. This wasn't even in my thought process until this week's reporting, courtesy of Shams. If Minnesota is at the table for this, Anthony Edwards, Giannis Antetokounmpo, to me, is a nightmare on both sides of the basketball. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the deal would potentially look like, but if you can keep some of the three-point shooting that Minnesota has, Anthony Edwards is a terrific three-point shooter in his own right. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a force on both sides of the basketball. Like, I don't know where Gobert falls in this in terms of the spacing of it all, but as that one has kind of emerged this week, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, that to me makes the West look as appealing as it could be. That's the best option if he were going to go to the Western Conference.
S.A.?
I get where you're coming from, Eminem. I don't mind that. I'm thinking Golden State because of the greatest shooter God has ever created, Steph Curry, and how that brother moves without the basketball, his marksmanship, how you have to pay so much attention to him, how that would free things up for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm also looking at Jimmy Butler being down, how his contract would have to be included in any deal. And then I'm looking at Golden State's draft assets. You got first-round picks. They own their own first-round picks for the next 7 years. And they can trade a maximum of 4, obviously, but they own their first-round picks for the next 7 years. So they've got some assets, all right? You've got the Jimmy Butler salary. You've got Kuminga, who doesn't want to be anywhere near Steve Kerr, and vice versa from everything that we've been hearing as well. I think about that because I'm thinking about the greatest shooter God has ever created,
okay, but S.A.,
who happens to be a 4-time champion.
No, you're right. But the one thing, like, I'm not saying who can make the best deal, because I think that's a different conversation.
Right.
But you're not concerned that, you know, Steph Curry, as great as he has been, how much longer you got? Like, you got so much more runway in theory with Ant.
I agree with that with Ant-Man. I'm thinking about the other assets you'd have to give up if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves in order to make a deal happen. Okay. So I'm taking that into consideration, Eminem. And then I'm also thinking about Steph Curry because don't we want him to be around? Don't we want him to be around more? Don't we want to see him? I mean, if you're telling us Steph Curry, because remember, his success isn't predicated on athleticism and playing above the rim. His success is predicated on his marksmanship, which we know is the elite of the elite. Yeah. So I'm looking at him being around for at least another 3 years if you got the right partner with him. And Giannis would be that too.
3?
All right, let's just look at the table. The table has 4 teams on it right now, Shay, okay? So, I mean, there might be a mystery team out there. Right now, you got Knicks, Heat, Warriors, and Wolves. Those are the teams that we know are very interested. So let's look at who you're pairing with. Jalen Brunson in New York. Jalen Brunson would be an incredible pairing with Giannis because at the end of games, you need someone who can handle the ball on the perimeter and take those shots. Jalen Brunson, one of the best clutch players in the league. He would be absolutely tremendous alongside Giannis, no doubt about it. And pretty much, let's be honest, the only player on the Knicks who's untouchable in a real discussion, the Knicks probably aren't having real discussions yet, but if they were going to have an honest discussion, he would be the guy. Look at Miami, it would be Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo can defend 1 through 5 on one end. He can bring the ball up the court. He would be a good balance. He's been playing more on the perimeter. He would be a good balance with Giannis, but they wouldn't have the guard play, especially from what they'd have to trade. However, I do think Miami is compelling because Miami and New York are in the Eastern Conference. And I think if you're Giannis, and I'm not even going to get into the tax ramifications, but Giannis will, because Giannis cares about every dollar, trust me. But the tax ramifications would be interesting in Miami, but Bam would be the guy there. Then you look in the West. You have Ant Edwards. This is the total package, guys. He plays both ends of the court. If you look at what led to a championship before with Giannis, he had Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday was one of the best perimeter defenders in the league at that time in 2021. Ant Edwards can be one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, and then he's the guy at the end of the game to balance out Giannis with the ball. That is a dynamic pairing. Unfortunately, of these 4 teams, I think Minnesota has the weakest offer. Because what's the most important thing in this deal, I cannot emphasize enough the tanking that you are about to witness in this NBA draft, okay? And you are going to see the Bucks go into a tank mode like you can't believe. We'll never have seen a team go into a tank mode like the Bucks are about to go into when they don't control their own pick because they've got to swap it with New Orleans. But you're going to watch a tank mode. The offer from Minnesota would bring in players that would not help a tank. Then you look at Golden State. If there's a deal that's going to be made before the deadline, in my belief, Golden State is the team to make that deal because the other teams have to get third and fourth teams involved. And that's why Golden State is going to be probably the most aggressive between now and Thursday. Their best position is doing the deal before next Thursday.
Well, here's the deal. Let's point this out. And here's the interesting part, and I can't wait to throw this at both of y'all. Let's shift this discussion just slightly as it pertains to who needs to be most desperate. You Golden State. You understand, with that money that Joe Lacob has spent over the years, with Steph Curry in the twilight of his career, still giving you 27 a night, still playing like a superstar, you got to take care of that brother. You got to put that brother in a position to compete. You got to help him. You understand? So that could be a compelling thing that drives them to do everything they can. And I know Joe Lacob is going to do whatever he can do, right? But then let's get to Minnesota. You know, with their new ownership, with A-Rod and the crew. And Mark, here's the point. Ant-Man is there. You don't want to get to a point where Ant-Man is frustrated. He's my favorite player to watch. Him and Steph Curry are my two favorite players to watch in the national in the world. You don't want to get Ant-Man perturbed. You don't want him sitting on the bench like he was against OKC, looking like he ain't got a snowball's chance in hell, and he's frustrated about it. You know, we were in Oklahoma City for Game 6 last year, okay, when they went up against Minnesota and blew them out of the building. We were there, Wendy, and did you see
Game 5? They wish they could have got to Game 6.
That's right.
They only made it to 5.
But did you see how he walked out there? I'm there in the tunnel, you know, and I know Alex Rodriguez, okay? He's a friend. And I'm telling you, I stayed the hell away from him. He was ticked because they got destroyed. And you just know you're not good enough. But you got one of the greatest players in the world, who, by the way, is one of the greatest box office appeals in the world. You may want to make sure you do everything you can to get him the help that he needs before he turns his attention on you and what you're not doing.
I know we got to go to break, but I would throw back at you, Stephen A. I feel like, to your question of urgency, there is another piece on the board I think that the Wolves could add to keep moving them forward. It feels like, for me, in observation of Golden State, it might be Giannis, big splash, big guy that can run alongside Steph or bust. But I think there's other moves for the Wolves to make to keep moving forward if they can't get Giannis.
Okay.
Wolves.
Yeah, the Timberwolves, right? Yeah. If it's not Giannis, maybe they add other pieces to make Anthony Edwards happy. Okay, now I am saying goodbye to you both. I will see you a little bit later on. 2-star quarterbacks.